There are a lot of riot police in full riot gear with gas masks. The ones that you're looking at now do not have that same sort of gear, so it's a bit of a mix. This has been a cooperative effort between local police departments, not just from Washington, D.C., but also from Virginia and Maryland, as well as their federal counterparts, U.S. Capitol Police up in the Capitol, as well as various federal agencies, and of course the National Guard that we now know has been fully mobilized by Mayor Bowser. This curfew now in effect. Well, if you've been asking about arrests, if we go by past precedent, when we've seen curfews in the past, that doesn't necessarily mean they're just going to start arresting people on site because they're out and about. But that certainly could happen as the evening wears on and people stay out. So the curfew is now in effect, but these Trump supporters, many of them, still out here, Wolf.
Yeah, it's an awful situation. The curfew now is in effect, but I don't see the police going about starting to tell these people they're going to be about to be arrested for violating the curfew. They should not be on the streets of Washington, D.C. right now. They should be heading to their hotels or to their homes or someplace else, or just get out of the area because the curfew, D.C. curfew, is now in effect. John King just got a statement. Let me read a sentence or two from the former President George W. Bush.
Natin sa 23.
You have it, John. Go ahead and read the statement for us.
Well, if I will read it. Our most sacred American undertakings, the doing of the people's business. Let me be very clear. The scenes of chaos at the Capitol do not reflect true America, do not represent who we are. What we're seeing are a small number of
Hindi
extremists
natin nakuha yan eh.
dedicated to lawlessness. This is not dissent. It's disorder. It's chaos. It borders on sedition. And it must end now. I call on this mob to pull back and allow the work of democracy to go
Hindi pa
forward.
ako nakakanta.
You heard me say before in every context, the words of a president matter,
Alin?
no matter how good or bad that president is.
Yung kanina yun.
At their best, the words of a president can
Hindi namin nakinig
inspire.
kanina yan kasi naghihilig ka, bala kasi.
Fulfill their duties and represent our
May
voices in
tinigas
peace
na daw.
and safety. May God continue to bless the United States of America. Now, again, George Bush is not a perfect man, and he was not a perfect president, but Wolf, someone who understands, man himself, lost the popular vote, won the presidency. It was a controversial time. Lived through the Iraq War, a very controversial time, but served 2 terms as president. In the middle there, he doesn't mention President Trump, but he says this assault today, undertaken by people whose passions have been inflamed by false.
This floor of the United States Senate, rummaging through desks, on the Capitol, on the House of
Ay,
Representatives,
manonood kayo.
threatening the safety of duly elected officials. It's not protest, it's insurrection.
Pwede na tayo
The world's watching.
Huwag kang maingay, hindi mo
Like
makikita.
so many other Americans, I am genuinely shocked and saddened that our nation, so long the beacon of light and hope for democracy, has come to such a dark moment. Through war and strife, America's endured much. And we will endure here, and we will prevail again, and will prevail now. The work of the moment and the work of the next 4 years must be the restoration
Tatay.
of democracy,
Kanina,
of decency,
nainditan kami
honor,
kuya and sila.
respect, the rule of law. Just plain, simple decency. The renewal of the politics. It's about solving problems, looking out for one another, not stoking the flames of hate and chaos. As I said, America's about honor, decency, respect, tolerance. That's who we are. That's who we've always been. The certification of the electoral college vote is supposed to be a sacred ritual to affirm purposes, to affirm the majesty of American democracy.
I was gonna play that.
Today's reminder,
You were
a painful one,
go it over.
that democracy is fragile. And to preserve it requires requires people of goodwill, leaders with the courage to stand up, who are devoted not to the pursuit of power, but for the personal interest pursuits of their own selfish interests at any cost, but of the common good. Think what our children watching television is thinking. Think what the rest of the world is looking at. For nearly 2.5 centuries, we, the people, in search of a more perfect union, have kept our eyes on that common good. America is so much better than we've seen today. Watching the scenes from the Capitol, I was reminded as I prepared other speeches in the past, I was reminded of the words of Abraham Lincoln in his annual message to Congress,
No.
whose work
Then
has
circle.
today been interrupted by chaos. Here's what Lincoln said.
How
He
about
said, "We shall
yellow?
nobly save
Yellow.
or merely lose the last best hope on earth." He went on to say, "The way is plain, peaceful, generous, just,
Yeah.
a way which if followed, the world will forever applaud, and God must forever bless." The way is plain here too. That's who we are. It's the way of democracy,
Squish it.
of respect, decency, honor, and commitment as patriots to this nation. Notwithstanding what I saw today, we're seeing today, I remain optimistic about the incredible opportunities. There's never been anything we can't do when we do it together. In this god-awful display today, bringing home to every Republican, Democrat, Independent, must step up. This is the United States of America. There's never been a thing we've tried to do that we've done it together and not been able to do it.
Gusto nyo aking ano?
President Trump, step up. May God bless America. May God protect our troops and all those folks at the Capitol who are trying to preserve order. Thank you, and I'm sorry to have kept you waiting.
That is President-elect Joe Biden urging
you. Sorry
President
for
Trump to
keep you
step up and
waiting.
address his supporters, some of whom,
Can
many
we
of whom,
play
in fact,
now?
stormed Capitol
Di
Hill,
pa,
and
sabi
some
niya,
of
wag daw
whom
muna
made it
maglaro.
inside Capitol Hill in pretty much an
Nagkakagulo sa Amerika,
unprecedented
bawal maglaro.
series of events that took place this afternoon and into this evening. Now, as President-elect said, he
Bawal
urged
ngayon.
President Trump to make a statement on national TV.
Mama.
President Trump did not do that. He issued a statement full of mixed
Hindi
messages
mo pa nga
on
nilikot
Twitter.
yung laruan mo, paano ka maglalaro?
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election
Ipit nyo na yung
that
laruan
was
pag
stolen
inuwi mo.
from us. It was a landslide
Stop.
election,
Okay.
and everyone knows it, especially the other
Kuya,
side.
tulungan mo si
Lola.
But you have to go home now.
Lola, but you
We
know
have to
I
have
put
peace.
something in your
We
back.
have to have law and order. We have to respect
What?
the great people
Hey,
of law and
I
order.
found it.
We don't want
And I
anybody
put it in the
hurt.
back.
It's a very tough period of time.
Titingnan ko
There's
kung
never been a time
wala
like this
nga
where
nakalagay sa neck.
such a thing
Oh,
happened,
another.
where they could take it away
Right.
from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we
Tamo.
can't play into the hands
Alis
of
dyan.
people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You see what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel. But go home and go home in peace.
You can see what I mean about mixed messages there. There are a couple of lines telling protesters to go home. As you heard at the end there, go home in peace. But the majority of that message
Lola.
is iterative of what he said.
Ito
today.
ito na nailalaro.
Election, falsely claiming without evidence that the election
What
was
may
stolen,
bigay
that
kay
the
Kuya,
results were
iyan
fraudulent. In
ilalaro
fact,
ko
at
sa
6:01 p.m.
swimming pool.
The president issued another tweet at 6 o'clock. Just
Ito pala
happens
yung
to be
salamin
when
ng driver. Eh.
Ko, yung ba to? Yung
Ay, ito yung salamin niya, akin na.
Weird and strange Strange Times is all the images
Bird
of
doctor.
mayhem going on in Washington,
Asan yung
D.C. shows us
driver?
Yeah, and if you want to appreciate
Yung driver
how,
ng car mo
let's say,
nasaan?
unstable the president is right now, with only 14 days to go, look at this tweet that he just posted. And let me get your quick reaction, Doug.
I'll
before I
tell
move on.
you. No.
This is what the president of the United States just said. Hard to believe, but I'll repeat it. These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. Go home with love and in peace. Remember this day forever. We will remember this day, Doug, forever. But it's not the way the president wants us to remember it, because this is an awful day in American history. This is not a glorious moment.
Dito mo ilagay sa
No,
box.
President Trump is a day that will live in
Kaya
infamy,
ng box, hindi mo
as
nalagay.
Franklin Roosevelt said at the time of Pearl Harbor, that it's going to be about what happens in a democratic society when you have a totalitarian as president. We've at CNN have had pundit and speaker and
Diyan
expert
ko
for the
lahat
last 2
nalalagay
years
yung
trying to warn the American
yung
people
Barbie
about who
things
this
ko.
man was.
And yung
And here
Barbie,
today,
maliit
we
na
watched his
Barbie.
behavior. He incited this rally and riot, and he will pay a very high cost in history and hopefully in the law, and law also.
And he's praising these writers. Let's go to Pamela.
Yan na,
Brown. She's
nag-uuwian
getting
na sila.
information. Pamela, the curfew went into effect, 22 minutes or so, 12 minutes or so ago. But give us a little bit more information that you're learning.
Well, we've just learned that what we saw today, there has been a death. I just got off the phone with a spokesperson for MPD who tells me that the adult woman who we reported was in critical condition earlier today, she has now been pronounced dead.
Hi.
She was pronounced dead at the hospital, and now I'm told that DC police will take the lead in investigating this. We don't have any information about the circumstances of this or the identification of this woman, but there is video circulating that we are not showing right now, a disturbing video of the woman being treated inside, apparently inside the Capitol building today, on the Capitol grounds. She is being treated there. She was transported to the hospital, and she has been pronounced dead. Well, there have been multiple injuries amid the mayhem today from not only the rioters, but also police officers there who have been injured. Some have been taken to the hospital. We know of at least one. But this is the first death that we know of from what we've seen unfold there today. Wolf.
So a deadly day in addition to everything else. Alex Marquardt, we see these individuals who are still marching. They're still moving around. There's a curfew supposedly in effect here in the nation's capital. They don't seem to care.
Hindi pala umuwi.
No, they don't, Wolf. You have to say that the number of Trump supporters and rioters has dramatically decreased, but there's still a very strong contingent. They are being pushed back forcefully, aggressively, but not violently by members of the Metropolitan Police Department. As we've been saying, this long line of MPD officers, some in riot gear, some not, have been slowly and methodically pushing them away from the western side of the Capitol, which is where much of this riot started this afternoon. This incursion into the Capitol building started this afternoon. So we have seen over the course of the past hour or so, as we built towards this curfew that, as you mentioned, has now been in effect for about 15 minutes, we have seen them slowly and methodically pushing people away. One interesting thing, Wolf, we just saw about a group of around 24 FBI agents heading towards the Capitol. That is one body, one law enforcement body that we have not seen earlier today. So far, it was mainly limited to different other federal law enforcement agencies, local law enforcement agencies. But what you're looking at now, Wolf, are the remnants of these rioters, at least from this side of the Capitol. I don't have visibility on what's happening on other sides of the Capitol, who continue to chant and shout obscenities at law enforcement. They've been calling them traitors, they've been calling them sellouts, and they've been very, very angry. So there has been a large number of rioters have left, but there is still a strong presence. And I want to say something quickly about the symbolism. Of course, there are a lot of American flags out here, but I would say that those flags are outnumbered by Trump flags, and that really does give you a sense of where I believe the allegiance lies of so many
Trump.
of these rioters. Wolf?
Yeah, it's a really,
Trump
really
country.
dangerous situation that's unfolding, and I suspect in the days to come, 14 days until the inauguration, it's going to become even more tense here in the nation's capital. Adoni is still with us. He's in the midst of one of the crowds that's still there. They're refusing to obey this 6 p.m. curfew. What's the latest there?
No, yung driver nung ano mo may suot niya.
Hey, Wolf, yeah, we have been moved back about 100 feet beyond where the Trump supporters, members of this mob, broke through a barrier. That's where the police moved them back to 6 p.m. when the curfew came in place, and a few minutes after 6 p.m. They began pushing the crowd back. The crowd did cooperate. It was peaceful.
A lot of Canadians that I've spoken with and others around the world that have said to me they're sad, they're hurt, they're scared, and sorry for us. And boy, I felt sorry for us today.
What do you think happens now? I'm asking because our viewers are looking at some live shots outside of Capitol Hill. The curfew came into effect 17 minutes ago in Washington, but there are still a lot of protesters. There seems to be a bit of an increased police presence, but not if you. And I don't have a perfect perspective because I'm at the whim of the live shots that are coming in.
Yeah.
But there are still protesters outside of Capitol Hill. There's some representatives talking about impeachment. There, you know, how do you see the next 24 hours going? What do you think happens next?
So a couple things. First of all, my daughter's 8 blocks from the Capitol. She's
okay?
right there on Capitol. She lives on Capitol Hill. She's okay, but it's a scary time for people living in their apartments or homes, knowing that this is all going on right outside their windows and doors. So it's not just the people you see that are interacting there. This is a whole community of people that live there and interact in that society.
Hindi nga
that are
nagtatakot
in
yung mga
shelter in
protesters
place.
eh.
Can you imagine? We have lockdowns going around the world because of COVID. In the capital of the United States of America, we have lockdown because of violence in the capital instigated by the President of the United States. The next 24 hours is going to be critical. I think nighttime is always a scary moment in terms of violence and activity. That's why the mayor instituted a curfew. And then they have to figure out how to peacefully dismantle this large group of people and get them out of here so that we can get back to the business of confirming the next President of the United States through the electoral vote. Some people will call for impeachment. That is going to probably be a serious debate among some people. And the reason for that is why do that? Well, if you're convicted in impeachment, you can't ever hold office again. And so
Masking and hand washing. And please stick.
the president and a team of his cabinet, coordination with Congress, can take the president out of his authority, make Mike Pence the acting president. And that's a larger number of people. My guess is let's just get through the next couple of weeks and let's do what we can do to protect the realm here. And, you know, let's not incite any more difficulties between the people who think he was robbed versus.
And when those supporters reach the Capitol and breach through those barriers. So this is finally clearing the mob out after many hours, Wolf.
Are these people that you're speaking to over there? You've done excellent reporting over these past many months on some of these fringe conspiracy groups, QAnon among others, in various parts of the country. Are you seeing those kinds of people over where you are right now, Tony?